friends, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to DWSU Stand Up. If we do not stand up for what we believe, who will? I want to thank you, my audience, for joining in once again and watching this podcast or listening to it. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing and talking to Christopher Harris. And let me tell you a little bit about this man. You're in for a treat. Christopher is a retired Border Patrol agent. He retired in June of 2018. Now, he is from New York, moved to California a few years ago with his family. But more important than anything, for 30 years, he has served in law enforcement as a sworn officer. In one way or another, he's been involved with law enforcement. So this is a perfect time to talk to him. He was a correctional, police, detective, federal officer, federal agent in locally and state, federal levels, New York, California. Christopher started his career in law enforcement at 18 years old. And he served his community as a volunteer firefighter. And he is a family man, a wife, 2 grown daughters, and 6 grandchildren. So today, I want you to join me in welcoming our friend and someone I've heard speak before, and I enjoy, Christopher Harris. Good morning, Christopher. How are you today?
Good morning, Dolores. I'm fine, and I hope you're well. And thank you for having me on to talk with you. I love it.
Yes, me too. And I'm looking forward to it. We'll start out, Christopher. I wanted to talk to you, first of all, by you being in law enforcement. That was another reason I wanted to speak to you. What is your opinion on the agreement that President Trump made with President Obrador of Mexico to keep immigrants in Mexico while their claims are being considered?
Well, so what it was probably one of the better accords ever made, and it helped our system because our system was broken, was being overwhelmed. And what it is about people seeking asylum. And there's defined limits of what you can say to get asylum. It's not for economic reasons. So most of them would claim, when we talk to them, they would say that it was for economic reasons, for jobs. But when they officially made the claim, it was always, gang violence or this and that. So what they're doing now, and it's a wonderful accord, is that they have to wait in Mexico while their asylum claims are heard to determine if it's a real claim, whether it has value, and if it's valid. The whole premise is then supposedly they're leaving because of threats in the country they came from, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala. So if they're in Mexico, they're safe. They're away from that, what they're claiming was a problem. And while they're there, they make their claim through the consulate or the U.S. Embassy, and then it's adjudicated. So instead of being, in the past, they came into the United States, they were released, and the government itself did its own studies and found that about 80 to 90% of them never showed up for their hearings. So they would just be released into the United States and disappear. So now they have to wait in Mexico for their claims to be adjudicated. And if they're real, if they have real serious claims and it's adjudicated as a yes, you were under some kind of violence or whatever, their asylum will be granted. But the majority of them are not real. Again, like they would just tell us in the past, that was really they're coming in for jobs. So that's not a legitimate asylum claim. So that is one of the better accords to secure the border that's been done in 20, 30, 40 years. And the fact that President Trump was able to do that with a socialist president of Mexico is fantastic. It's amazing to me that he was able to get that accord, and it's fantastically helpful to secure the border.
Yeah, well, I was looking up some information, and it said that 230,000 people have been kept out of the United States while these claims are being considered. Now, I also heard something else yesterday. Emmett Sullivan, the same judge who went after General Kelly, has put an order into President Trump, making it possible now, and this is happening in real time, over 1,000 young people unaccompanied are now coming into the United States. Judge Sullivan is preventing President Trump from sending these young people back, keeping them in Mexico. Now they're unaccompanied, over 1,000 of them. They're lining up now to come into the United States. This is an order that just came through from Judge Sullivan, which I think is,
Well, you have activist judges who are not,
yes,
doing what the law says or whether it's constitutional or not. They decide what they like. The problem that is, I mean, we've gone through this where we were accused, the government was accused of like losing these kids or whatever. No, we actually know where their parents are. Their parents don't want them back. So if the parents have been removed or are back in, say, El Salvador or Honduras or Guatemala, they don't want their kids back. They want their kids in the United States with an uncle and aunt or unaccompanied. And it bothers me, Dolores, is that people are starting to grasp the nature of human trafficking, sex trafficking, things like that. It's all the same groups. It's not like, oh, I have a niche, I'm a specialized boutique smuggler. It's the cartels. The cartels run everything on the border. Anything that crosses that border illegally is through the cartels, including people. So when we go after people or unaccompanied children, there's a reason for that. And so I don't understand like judges like this to make these decisions. So you're going to have these kids wandering around the United States by themselves. How do you think that's a good thing? Do you not think they're going to be trafficked? Do you not think they're going to be used, exploited? And that's what happens. And so it's very bothersome to have these kind of judicial rulings that really fly in the face of common sense.
yeah, absolutely. And another thing, during COVID, why is it, the United States is locked down. Oh, they're telling the American citizens, don't leave your house. Be careful. Keep within 6 feet of each other. And now you open the border, and some of these children have COVID. They're
Yeah. Oh,
infected.
yeah.
Our border patrol, their job a lot more dangerous, which is ridiculous for them
Well,
to
some of the
open the
numbers
border.
that they're locking down Southern California.
Yeah,
Restaurants are closed. You can't even eat outdoors anymore down here in San Diego.
yeah, but it's okay to open the border and let thousands of people come
And those numbers
in.
count against us. So when somebody comes across the border legally or illegally and they have COVID and they go to the hospital, those numbers count against us.
Yeah,
So,
and I think, I agree. And I think a lot of the numbers that are happening to us are because people are coming across the border.
well, Dolores, this. My wife is from Mexico, and she tells me, yeah, people are coming across the border that have COVID-19 to seek treatment here from Mexico. So when they go to a hospital here in San Diego or Imperial County, those numbers again count against us, but yet they came across from TJ or whatever.
Yes.
So I mean, we're getting slammed with these lockdown orders because of these numbers, but part of the numbers are because people are crossing from Tijuana to seek medical treatment in the United States for COVID. So your point is well made, is that we're told to lock down, stay home, don't see your friends or family, but yet people are coming across the border and it's okay.
Yeah, and we are allowing it. We're
Yes.
making that happen,
Mhm.
which is, anyway, I won't get started on that. I'll start shouting. But I want to ask you this, Christopher. At what point can the government get in and legally stop the rioting in the streets? And like I see they have these appeasement zones been set up again in Portland.
Well, I mean, I will say, to the Portland mayor's credit, and he's pretty left wing, I guess he looked at Seattle and he said that's not going to happen here. He has told the Portland Police Department to dismantle. He said we're not having autonomous zones here. As far as the federal government getting involved, they can get involved at almost any time. By presidential decree. We saw that down in the South for desegregation. President Eisenhower federalized the National Guard to make sure the schools were desegregated against the wishes of that state. And so that can be done. Federal officers, federal agents always have the authority that's vested with them. They don't need permission from the local mayor or city council. For some reason, they think they do, but they don't. When I was a federal agent, I could do what I had to do under the title of law that I was authorized to enforce anywhere in the United States. It's commonwealths, it's territories, it's possessions, it's embassies. And so at any given time, if the federal government really wants to, whether the local governor, the mayor, the city council don't like it, they can enforce federal law at any time. We saw that happening up in Seattle. They hated it. They screamed about, federal agents making arrests as if that was something new. Federal agents make arrests all the time. And the nice thing, though, is you see a lot of these DAs that were openly funded by George Soros. And we have one in LA now that are refusing to prosecute these crimes. I mean, you can arrest them, but if the DA doesn't prosecute them, So under federal, though, it goes to the U.S. attorney. It cuts the DA out of the picture, and they absolutely hate that. But it's perfectly legal. It's been done for years. Al Capone went down federally. He didn't go down on state or local charges. So for these people to cry now and act like it's federal agents or federal officers are, arresting people and they're being prosecuted in federal courts, oh wow, it's always been that way. And so sorry that because you're a left-wing jurisdiction and you don't want to prosecute these people for rioting. Well, so sad, too bad. We can, and we should probably do more of that.
Yeah, I was looking yesterday and I saw that the police tried to go in and interrupt this zone, but they were not able to get in there. They put up, blockades, and they're trying to keep the police out. So I don't know how that's not
probably not going to go well. I mean, it's a
well.
liberal jurisdiction. I mean, not even liberal left. It's a left-wing jurisdiction. The DA doesn't want to prosecute cases. So if you're an anarchist, if you're Antifa or whatever, and you want to sow discord and violence, you know that if you get arrested, you're going to be released and not charged. And you're seeing a lot of these like white liberal kids coming into areas and professing that they're, with the people. Yet I believe they're more racist than almost anybody. And yet they know nothing's going to happen to them. Well, let's see if they start getting arrested and thrown out of college and losing their jobs, maybe they'll stop. But they have to be prosecuted. So again, the feds can do that, and I think they should.
Yeah, and you mentioned Los Angeles, the district attorney.
He's from San Francisco. He screwed up San Francisco.
Yeah,
now he's going to do LA.
That's what I heard. He messed up San Francisco, and now George Soros' money, crooked money,
very openly.
I mean, George Soros, that's another subject.
But he was smart, though. He's funded a lot of these DAs around the country, realizing that if you don't prosecute people, they can get away with it. The guy's brilliant. I mean, I don't like him. I think he's evil, but that's brilliant. And so LA now, the new DA says, "Oh, I'm not going to prosecute for trespassing, prostitution, assaulting police officers. I'm not going to prosecute those crimes." Okay. Now the trespassing thing is really scary because a lot of businesses, what they do is when somebody's shoplifting in California, they file an order and basically says you cannot come on their property again. And if you do, you're arrested for that. You don't even have to shoplift. Well, that means he's not going to prosecute for that. So I know a person that owned, I think he's one of the largest Arco franchisee in Southern California. He owns several Arcos, truck stops and whatnot. He's getting hammered by people that come into a store every day and steal, walk out with a case, just pick up a case of beer and walk out. And there's really nothing the police can do. And now the DA is saying, I'm not even going to prosecute that. Wow. I would hate to be a small business owner. I mean, that's just horrible stuff. So the trespassing isn't when you think like, oh, they're on my yard. That means like these people that get these orders for these businesses to enforce people who have shoplifted before to keep them off their premises, they're not going to be enforced. So again, I would hate to be a small business owner.
Yeah, well, I think they can go anywhere in California because they have, I think, like up to $90 or something like that. They can actually shoplift, and some of them get their calculated. They go in the grocery store.
It's documented. They've got calculators making sure they don't go over like $9.50.
Exactly.
I think the number is $9.99.
They go get what they want and just walk right out, and you cannot do anything. This is the lunacy of.
It's almost like a parking ticket. If the police do anything, it's like a parking ticket.
Yeah.
And it's killing small businesses. And I'm not sure what this animosity seems to be in California against small businesses from the governor on down. I don't get it. They're the backbone of our country, the middle class.
Well, I say if you give the small business people, they're trying to make more dependent on the government. That's I mean,
I think that's the case. I believe that.
Yeah. Yep.
No country does well without a middle class. The middle class was formed in the Middle Ages by craftsmen, artisans, but no country does well when you only have a rich class and a poor class. You only do well when you have a middle class, but yet the left, and again, I differentiate between liberals and the left, but the left seems to want to destroy the middle class, and I don't get it.
Yeah, they want that you talked about. You have or you don't, or you dependent on the government. So they want that dependency. So they want the control. It's about control and power.
I actually agree with that. I believe that to be, because I've asked myself, like, what is the underlying reason? What's their end game? And I think you're right. I think it's about making you dependent on the government. If you have to rely on a check from the government owns you.
Yes.
And so, if that, same with me, if I had to rely on a check from the government, yeah, they could tell me what to do. When you have Section 8 housing and stuff, they can come up with all kinds of rules saying you can't do this, you can't do that. They own you.
Yes, and it's very sad because American people come in with that spirit for the most part. They want to be free. They want to make their own choices and they want to do what they want to do, yeah, within reason. But
Yeah.
American people don't like those kind of restrictions that are being put on them, which is
Well, unfortunately, it seems about like half of the American people do. They're very accepting of these restrictions.
Yeah,
And
some of
then,
them. I'm talking about business people, small
oh
business,
yeah,
those who work hard for
yep,
what they have. They do not want to be restricted.
right.
And
No, I get that, and that's what made our country great.
Yes,
Was that people were able to be entrepreneurs, they were able to work hard and get the benefits of that, and have a large amount of freedom. Again, there's certain limits, but it seems like what we're trying to do now is the exact opposite. So
yes, and
scary.
we when we talk about limiting, I look at what they're doing with people with gun ownership, and there are a lot of restrictions coming if Joe Biden if he's inaugurated as president. He's already said what he will do. Kamala Harris has already said if she becomes president, she will put through an executive order to take away your guns.
Right, and what's disturbing about that is two levels. One, just that what she wants is disturbing, but two, that she seems to not fundamentally grasp how the Constitution works. And executive orders are fine, but you still can't violate the Constitution with an executive order. Now, the scary part would be if they packed the bench, the Supreme Court, as if they've said they might do. Joe Biden said he'd let us know after he was elected. He still hasn't told us whether he'll do that or not. But if they pack the bench, if they win the 2 seats in Georgia for the Senate, and they have a majority already in the House, and they have a majority in the Senate and the presidency, they can quite literally do that, pack the Supreme Court, put 6 more progressives on there, as they've said, and then they can do stuff. And if the court rules that's constitutional, that's constitutional. So it's very scary what could happen, and very well might happen down the road a little bit.
Well, yeah, and that's why a lot of us are in prayer for the people in Georgia, and a lot of people are working to get the word out in Georgia because, and I want to talk a little bit more about that a little later. But I want to ask you about limiting people. Like we know the Second Amendment is very important to American. First Amendment too. God gave us that First Amendment. I kind of jotted down some notes here. The First Amendment was adopted in 1791 and given us the rights, the Bill of Rights. And there are certain rights that come with that First Amendment, and freedom of speech, religion, and the press. And of course, we know the press is a part of the problem today. The media
So,
is part of
the problem is this country needs a real pit bull press. That's how a constitutional republic lasts, where you go after everybody equally. If they're dirty, they're corrupt, whatever. It seems now that they have blinders on for one side of the aisle, and they get a pass, and they only go after the other side of the aisle, and that's just not sustainable. And unfortunately, the press is falling apart. I look at people who write articles and stuff for mainstream media, and none of them anymore have degrees in journalism. So journalism is kind of dying in this country, real journalism, and we need it. So I'm saddened that we don't have that kind of pit bull press that goes after everybody equally, to maintain the kind of democracy. I did want to point out that you mentioned the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's just a piece of paper. It means nothing. They just articulate our rights. The founding fathers believed you were born with these rights. These are natural. They use the term natural born rights.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to be very clear that the Constitution, it just articulates those rights. But a piece of paper can be ripped up. So we have to be very careful of that. But we have to keep teaching our kids, and we're not, that these are rights that are inherent to you as a human being by just simply being born, that God, the creator, whatever term you want to use, because I used both with a capital C and a capital G, that God gave you these rights by being born. You have the right to free speech. You have the right to assemble. You have the right to move around freely. You have the right to go to church. It says freedom of religion, not freedom from religion.
Yes.
So nobody can tell you you have to be Catholic or you have to be this or that. but you have the right to practice religion. And we're seeing that, like in California and New York, going away, where the governors are saying, you can't meet, you can't go to church, I'm shutting you down. I'm not sure when the American people say, hey, look, we did what we had to do. You know, we were told it was going to last a few months, a few weeks. We're going to flatten the curve. And now it just seems to be this never ending, closing everything down again. Your rights will go away that way if you don't believe that you need to fight for them.
Well, you know what? And that's by design. And that is no accident what is happening, Christopher. No accident at all. Unfortunately, the church is being very compliant, and too many of them are very compliant. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be cautious. Yes, we have to use caution, but at the same time, we are the church orchestrated by God and for God. And so I think at some point the church has to take a stand. And
I agree with you.
You know, yeah, you use your caution, but you have to take a stand, because if you don't, the church will be blown away and just more or less put into a box. And that's what's happening now. We've been told what we can do, what we can't do, and we'll fine you if you dare to go against what we say.
Well, I mean, Jesus himself said, render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, render unto God what belongs to God. And we've been trying to do that. We've been trying to render unto Caesar, the government, what belongs to them. We get that. But there is a point when church is going to have to say, hold on, you've now, you know, you're killing us. You're shutting us down, and people of faith need to meet. Jesus had said that. I mean, you know, people say, oh, I go into the forest and that's my church, whatever. God bless. But, you know, you need to have fellowship. You know, it strengthens your faith. And I know I need that. I need to be with the people of faith. I need to be there together with them in worship. I need to take communion together with others. And it's scary that we've been maybe too complacent with that, where the churches are going to have to make a decision like, do we let the government shut us down permanently?
And I think that's a part of, it seems like it's a test run. It's a dry run to see how far can we push the church? Can we keep them shut down permanently? Because there are people that do not want the word of God to get out.
I firmly believe, I mean, I'm Lutheran, and you know, we're a little bit more moderate than some other churches, but I was talking to my pastor the other day, and we firmly believe that evil, Satan, is walking the world big time now. And like you said, this is a test run. How far can we go to take God out of our lives and out of our communities?
Yeah, well, I tell you, we see it happening right now. And right now they are on the winning side. And my prayer is that the church will stand up. I'm saying throw caution to the wind. Yes, be cautious. But at the same time, you cannot stay locked down forever.
Well, I mean, Dolores, let's be honest. Like, my church is a small church. We have 2 pews are taped off. So it's you're in every 3 pews. So, I mean, you're really socially distanced. You wear your mask. We're still shut down from internal services, inside services. But yet I can go, not that I like it, but I don't, but you can go to Walmart right now with crowds of people, and that's okay. You can eat outside if you're with a Hollywood film industry, but if you have a restaurant in LA, you can't have outside dining. So the coronavirus is pretty sneaky. So I could be in church and the coronavirus is going to come after me, but if I run into Walmart, it stops.
Exactly.
I could eat outside if I'm with a Hollywood film industry, it won't come after me. But if I eat outside at a local restaurant across the street, coronavirus is going to get me. So they keep saying we're following the science. No, you're not. You're just doing dictates as you will. And you've been allowed to get away with it, and it's got to stop. Yeah,
they've gotten away with it because Walmart, Home Depot, and I'm not banging against them because
no, God bless.
Thank God open. But like you say, you go in Walmart, you go in Home Depot, you go in all these big stores, small stores, whatever, you go in the store, you're bumping into people. You're not 6 feet apart. You pass right by somebody. You don't know that person from Adam, but you're mingling just like always. And that has never stopped. But yet the church has been silenced.
I mean, our churches, we can't do inside services right now. So, I mean, we're coming up to one of the biggest times of the Christian year, which is Christmas, Advent and Christmas, and we're shut down.
You know what?
You took away Easter from us. You took away Thanksgiving. Now you're going to take away Christmas?
There's no accident in that, because these people are anti-God. And that
Oh
was
no,
my
I
whole
believe
point.
that. I believe that. I believe that our certain governors are
Yes, for months.
anti-Christian.
Yeah, because America was founded on the Bible, and all the things that bring us together. Oh, we got to shut down Easter. We have to shut down Thanksgiving. And now they're telling us, oh no, no, Christmas is not even here yet. We're projecting, oh yeah, yeah, no, we got to shut down Christmas. So don't have anybody in your house. And I said, no, no,
And I
no.
don't get, Dolores, I got to say this. If you don't want people in your house because you're worried about COVID, God bless. Don't have them in your house.
Exactly.
But you're going to tell me who can come into my house?
Ah,
Our country was founded pretty much as your home is your castle. You have basically jurisdiction. You can't murder people in your house, but basically that's your castle. And now I'm told I can't, who I can have in my house? Are you kidding me? I can't have family members in my house. My uncle just passed away. I couldn't go back to New York for the funeral because of the quarantine and all that Cuomo has put in place. So you're denying us the ability to be with our family and our loved ones, and people aren't up in arms about that.
yeah.
And if you're worried, don't have them in your house. I get it. If you're worried
Exactly.
about it, stay in your house. Cool.
Yep.
But don't tell me that I have to do the same thing.
Exactly. I think people have to take their own precautions. If you don't feel safe, then that's what you do. But
Yep.
don't try to shut me down
Yep.
and shut down my family. I can't go for that. But now let's talk about the Second Amendment. Now we know this one is a hot potato because American people, it's not, God gave us that right. I wrote down this little note here. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. These rights are under threat in the United States. And I was looking, Chris, and I mentioned this before, Christopher, in Virginia, how the gun shows, they had like 25,000 people already signed up for next year. They, like the day before this gun show in Virginia this last month, they shut it down. And they used COVID as a clutch
pretext.
or a bat to beat us over the head, control us. COVID is being used. I mean, I heard someone say, yeah, exactly. I heard someone say that COVID was a gift to the Democrats. I heard someone say that.
Well, Rahm Emanuel famously said, let no crisis go to waste.
Yeah, never let a crisis go to waste.
So they didn't plan this. They didn't, it's not, they didn't cause it. China did, but they are using it. I truly believe that it's like a gift to them. And they're like, we're going to run with this. We're going to shut things down. We're going to use this to close things that we don't like, churches, gun shows. We're just going to run with this. And it's scary.
Yeah, it is scary because I had jotted down some other notes. I was looking, Christopher, now the American people, we have to know who we are trusting our freedoms to. Mm-hmm. And too many Americans don't dig deep. They simply believe the mainstream media, which you can't believe any of them. You got to do your own homework. And you just can't put the TV and look at that and believe.
Well, I mean, you also have, Dolores, our institutions of higher learning and stuff have been indoctrinating kids for years. When you see interviews with kids who say the First Amendment oppresses them, that's scary. I mean, they believe it. They believe that somehow the First Amendment, which gives you all this power in your life, mm-hmm. but they're taught that it oppresses them.
Yes.
That's scary because once enough people believe that, then they're good with it going away.
Yeah, well, that's why they want control of the children. And why they haven't did all the indoctrination with so many evil things that we can't even get into all the things that.
Look, if my kids are grown up, I have grandkids, but if my kids were young, I would homeschool them at this day and age, or send them to a good private school, and somehow find how I work overtime or whatever to make the money because, and my dad was a teacher, and I've loved teachers and stuff, but anymore, you talk to some of these younger teachers, they've been indoctrinated. And so they believe this stuff that they're teaching the kids. And it's very, not liberal, it's very left wing. That communism and Marxism is good. Socialism is good. How our country is, it's bad. Okay, so name me a socialist or communist country that's ever done well. There is none. But they think, somehow if we do in the US, it'll be fine. And it's scary what they're teaching our kids.
Oh, it is.
There's a famous saying that if your student knows what your political ideology are, you're wrong. They shouldn't know that. Your job is to teach them how to use critical thinking skills, how to think for themselves, not to indoctrinate them. But that's what they're doing. So again, if I had kids now, I would take them out of public schools. I wouldn't let them go to public school. I hate to say that, but I would homeschool or private school.
Well, that might be one of the blessings of children not being in the school right now. But of course, they're using the computers and they're still doing that. But, I had, just for the sake of looking at how people have been oppressed, I kind of jotted down some people who have oppressed people and disarmed the citizenry. I kind of, we kind of talked about that, but I wanted to go over some of these. Millions of people have been killed around the world. Now look, I went and looked up Hitler. Adolf Hitler, 1938 is when Germany put in gun control. And they killed millions and millions of Jews plus others. Joseph Stalin,
they killed about 11 million people, about 6 million people that were Jewish,
I had 13
about 5
plus
million
others. Yes, and now Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union, and now 1924 to 1953, over 20 million people murdered. Now, I had a little saying here, if the opposition disarms, well, good. This is what Stalin said. If it refuses to disarm, we shall disarm it ourselves. This was Stalin. They killed millions of people. Mao Zedong in China, millions of people, and people are still being killed in China and silenced. In China,
one of the most repressive regimes going on right now.
Yes, and but also a regime that wants Joe Biden in power.
I just watched a high up official in China. The video came out, and he was talking about that. Oh, things are going to get better now that Biden's going to be in. We know him. We've worked with him. We have people in the inner core. Things are going to be great now for China again. Okay, so you're a repressive regime, and you're telling us that you like Joe Biden. That should tell you something.
Exactly. I've been screaming that from the rooftop since before the election. We've been talking about that, the dangers and the connection between Joe Biden and his criminal family. And that information was hidden from the public. A lot of people didn't even know how crooked the Biden family is. They didn't know all the stuff that's going on. And of course, it's coming out now.
Yeah, a little late.
Oh yeah, deliberately so. Yes, they don't make mistakes about anything.
The media definitively decided as a whole, as a group, not to report on it before the election.
Oh yeah, because but look how many people were influenced because they didn't know. Now I'm gonna go finish. Just have a few more here. Pol Pot, which was created in Cambodia,
the Khmer Rouge.
Yeah, they killed 1 million people.
So I lived with a woman after my wife passed away. My first wife passed away. Her family had to escape from Cambodia because of the Khmer. They escaped in 1980. The Khmer Rouge were the killing fields. Pol Pot was murdering people.
Yes.
The Khmer Rouge is the red Cambodians. They were communist, evil, and they disarmed the people and they murdered over 1 million people.
Yes. Now I put down. I just trying to jot down the ones who killed the most people, and we know that there are others. But Idi Amin in Uganda, he killed over 300,000 Christians.
He ate people too, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
When he killed some people, he actually did cannibalistic things where he had them served.
Oh my
Idi Amin was not a good person.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, we know about Hugo Chavez, what he did to Venezuela. Venezuela, one of the richest countries in the world. Hugo Chavez destroyed Venezuela. We see it now, Christopher. We see the people eating out of trash cans. They can't get toilet paper.
I'm going to say this. I had a friend who worked at the embassy in Colombia, and he said the saddest thing was to see these women, beautiful women who are teachers, doctors and stuff, coming in to prostitute themselves on the weekends to get money to feed their families in Venezuela. And he said it was just so horribly sad that these professional, beautiful, lovely women were put in the position to feed their families, that they were coming in Colombia and basically being prostitutes for the weekend. And that was like you said, one of the richest countries. And so people that promote socialism, Marxism, communism, I don't get it. It's like, here's the proof if this doesn't work. and it's a horrible system, but yet you still wear your Che Guevara t-shirts and you promote socialism. This is what it brings, and I don't get it.
But you know what? Those that promote that, they don't have a clue what they're talking about.
I agree with you.
They haven't had to live it, and so they don't know. And just like Cuba, Fidel Castro, what he did to the people of Cuba, and you know, even to this day, all these people under oppression. And I talk all the time, Chris Brown here, appreciate what you have in America, because we have the same mindset of people that want to oppress people running things in this country.
You're absolutely
They have
correct.
that same mindset. And if America thinks that we can't fall, we can't go that way, look what's happening with COVID. Look how compliant we are. Look how they're getting us ready to just accept government control.
So I want to bring this up too, because you talk about that. I'm an environmentalist. I've gotten an award from an environmental group for the work I've done with the environment. But this new Green Deal, we're already having issues in California, as you well know, where we have brownouts. We have rolling brownouts.
Exactly.
And that's putting us down to maybe not a third world country status, but a second world country status, where in countries, they don't have enough electricity and they have parts of the day where there's no electricity. We're already seeing that in Southern California.
We are.
We closed a power plant in Chula Vista and we shut down San Onofre, the nuclear power plant. They haven't been replaced. They're not replacing them. So get ready for more rationing of your electricity. We already do the rationing of water. So, they're getting us to the point where like you're going to have to accept being like a second world nation. And it seems like that's what they want.
That, like I say, Chris, Americans need to wake up. They really need to wake up to the dangers that are lurking around to control us. And they want to get rid of gas and fuel and so many. By this year, we're going to get rid of all gas-driven cars. And AOC, that famous congresswoman from your state of New York. Oh, well,
I don't take any ownership of that. I've been on it for years.
No, you gotta own it. You gotta own it. You gotta own it.
Not on me. But anyway, Newsom.
Yeah, I know. No, I know we got it out here, East Coast and West Coast. But no, I just wanted to say now, this young lady has a lot of power for somebody who's a socialist, a communist. And she said, oh, well, yeah, we got to win those 2 seats in Georgia, because then we don't have to deal. We can just do whatever we want to do. We will have absolute power. And this is the mentality of the Democrat Party, to have absolute power and control over the United States. And the people in this country, more or less, for the most part, tell you what you can and you can't do.
I don't want to see any party have absolute power.
Oh, no.
When you see this, like in California, is the Democrats are a super majority.
They are.
Whatever they want. They don't even have to talk to the Republicans. That's dangerous. You saw that in Virginia. You mentioned Virginia earlier about the Second Amendment. Right away, when they got absolute power, they started restricting the Second Amendment. Stuff they said, oh, we're not going to do. Once they got absolute power, oh yeah, we're gonna illegalize this. We're gonna do this. You can't have this. So whenever they get absolute power, scary stuff happens.
Well, this is what happens and this is why the voters of America have to wake up. Now, I have people that get mad at me because I talk this way, because I say, look, you got to see with your own eyes. You cannot believe what you're seeing on TV. You have got to do your research. And I'm just trying to be a voice out there crying in the wilderness. I say, yeah, if I have to shout and scream it by myself, oh, well, maybe you don't believe me, but I still have to say it. I have to stand up for the truth. Christopher, you understand.
God bless.
We have to, even if one person said, wait a minute, maybe I need to think about this. Yeah, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
And you don't want to see, I will be terrified if we have a Democratic president and a Democratic controlled House and a Democratic controlled Senate. I will be terrified, because they've told us what they might do. We'll pack the court, we'll do this, we'll do that. And people seem to be okay, like, oh, they won't do that. But they told you they want to do that.
Yes.
I don't get it when they actually tell you.
Chris, you're right. When people tell you what they want to do, they will do it. If they get the power to do it, they will do it. Chuck Schumer, he said He said we change when we win more or less these seats in Georgia, then we win America.
Yes.
That is what Chuck Schumer said. We will take over America. This man has said that we will add Puerto Rico and DC. We will make states out of Puerto Rico and DC.
They what the Democratic Party wants, at least part of it, is they feel that this is the time, by doing things like that they will then retain power forever.
Yes, exactly. but we will be a communist country. The American, we will not have the freedom to choose, Christopher. We will not have. That's why I tell people all the time, don't think that this American experience that you have, do not take it for granted, because the freedoms that we have were given by God. That's why people are breaking down the walls to get in here. But if everybody comes in here, it will not be. A nation has to maintain its borders. You know that as a border control.
Every country in the world does that. When we do it, we're bad. But every country in the world does that. Even liberal countries maintain their borders.
Yes, I mean,
you know how my thoughts on that are. We have to have a secure border.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have secure borders, guess what? You don't have a country.
Nope.
And this is
no country in the history of the world has ever survived if they couldn't control their borders.
That's right. And I'll say again, Mr. Biden, if he should get in as president, said for the first 100 days, he is not going to enforce that border. And that's why people are lining up right now.
Oh, the caravans are starting again.
Yes, they're starting again. Now, contrast that to what President Trump has done. For those Trump haters, President Trump has done so much to try to keep that stuff back, to let people, we want immigrants, but we want people to come in legally. We want people to come in the right way.
I asked somebody tell me the other day, your family came here illegal. I said, no, my grandmother came over in like 1920 something from Ireland, County Antrim, through Ellis Island. So she did it legally, which is fine. We've always accepted, and this is what the left does. They try to conflate illegal immigration with legal immigration. Two distinct things. This country has always accepted and should continue to do so. Legal immigration. That's what's made us great, but not illegal, where you just come and, hey, I don't have to obey any of the laws. I'm just plopping myself down here. That's not, you can't maintain a civilization, a civilized society or a country by allowing that.
Yes, well, I think those who want it, they want power and control so much that, well, we let these people come in, they don't know anything, so we will have power over them, we will control them. And
look, again, my wife's
ignorant citizenry.
My wife's from Mexico, and we see it down in South Bay down here, where the people seem to keep voting in corrupt politicians, and they know they're corrupt.
Yeah.
But when they're talked to, when they're interviewed or whatever, they're like, well, that's how we did it in Mexico, so it's okay. But you left there for a reason. Why would you then want to turn this into what you left? And corruption should not be the norm. You should not sit there and go, you know what, I accept corrupt politicians because that's how we did it in Mexico or Honduras. No. And so you're right. There's an ignorance, and I don't mean stupidity. It doesn't mean they're stupid people, but there's an ignorance of how the system should work. And that's exploited by, it seems to be, by the left to get votes and keep power. And tell people like, well, you shouldn't have the Second Amendment. You didn't have it down there. You don't need it up here. So scary stuff when you let people in who don't know how the system should work. Oh, yeah.
Now, it's the same thing with people that leave California. Oh, I don't like the taxes in California, so I'm moving to Texas. I'm moving to Nevada. I'm moving to Florida. And they take the same thinking to Texas, to Florida. And then I've heard people say, oh, I can't wait to turn Texas blue. I said, wait a minute. Hold
Why?
on.
You left the reason.
You do not know what you're asking for when you say, I want Texas to turn blue. No, you don't. You're asking for communism, socialism to be controlled by the government. That's what you're asking for, but you don't realize that.
So I saw this cop in Dallas, and he was talking that he had spoken, some people had just moved to Dallas from California, and they were young, hipster types. And he said, why'd you leave California? Oh, the taxes, the crime. Okay, you're going to still vote like Democrat, right? Oh, yeah. So there's this ignorance again. You left there for a reason. Why then would you want to make where you moved to what you left? And we see it, people from other countries will come here leaving something, yet then trying to recreate what they left here. And it makes no sense to me. And if you leave California because you don't like the taxes or the crime, why would then you go somewhere else and then try to replicate that? I mean, we see that Texas, I mean, Austin is very blue. Dallas is becoming blue. San Antonio, we see Colorado now is deep blue. We see Utah is turning blue. Why? Because all these people are expatting themselves from California or Seattle or Washington or Oregon, but yet they're recreating what they left. And
Yes.
I don't get that.
I don't
the
either.
mindset is, I left for a reason. I know why I left, but I'm going to make it happen here too.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Christopher, that all of that stuff is a cause of the divide that we see in this country. And our country is divided. Families not talking to each other, people hating each other in their own families. Oh, I can't even talk to you because you like Trump, or I can't talk to you because of this or that.
Look,
which is sad.
I have a friend she's very liberal, very educated, but her animosity, antipathy toward Trump is insane, to the point now that she says anybody that supports Trump is basically ignorant, stupid, bad. And I'm thinking, like, wait a second, my IQ is almost 140. I'm not ignorant. And Trump is not my favorite guy. I mean, I told you this the other day. I wouldn't have him as my best friend. I wouldn't want him to date my daughter. But as far as what he does for the country, you need to look at that and go, okay, that was actually good what he did. But this antipathy toward him, this hatred, this visceral hatred, and anybody who supports him. So you're basically saying half this nation is stupid and ignorant and bad people because they support this guy. Look, I don't support everything he does. There's things he does I don't like. I wish he would stay off, stop tweeting and stuff like that. But the fact is, when I look at it and I try to use critical thinking skills and I look at what he's done for this country, he's done some amazing stuff. I mean, this is a guy that's called, they say he's anti-Semitic. And I'm like, you do know that his daughter and grandchildren and all that are Jewish, right? You know that he's, after 70 years, he finally lived up to the promise that we were going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. He did that. And yet people say, oh, he's anti-Semitic. Okay, so your hatred for him is just, you're the ignorant one, because what you're saying is just demonstrably false, but you hate him so much for some reason that you can't use critical thinking skills on what he's done for this country.
Yeah, and look at all the peace accords that he's putting together, bringing people together around the world.
Oh, and I've heard about that too. Like, well, they weren't really fighting. Well, when President Carter was Sadat and Menachem Begin, they got at the Camp David Peace Accords, they weren't actually fighting each other, but it was huge, and they all got Nobel Peace Prizes for that. So he's doing the same thing. I mean, he's been nominated 3 times now for the Nobel Peace Prize.
We'll I think he's got 4 of them now.
He might be. I don't think he's going to win, but it's funny that the previous administration, the president was nominated for things that they said he was going to do.
I know. He hadn't even been in office. He was still green.
So we have a president who's actually brought countries together, including over in former Yugoslavia, countries that hate each other, and he's got them talking to each other. That's amazing. And he's the first president that hasn't gotten us into a war since like 1980 for 40 years. Yep. I'm not saying everything we've gotten into is wrong, but he is the first. Everybody says he's a warmonger. He's going to start World War III. He's the first president that hasn't gotten us involved in any military conflicts. But yet you call him a warmonger. Again, the critical thinking skills are gone, and the hatred for him is just so bad that I don't care what he does. It's very 1984 Orwellian. Black is white, up is down. The guy doesn't start a war, but he's a warmonger. His family's Jewish, but he's anti-Semitic. I mean, it really is a type of insanity. And you don't have to like the guy. You don't have to like the guy. You don't have to think that, hey, I want him over my house. But look at what he does and go, wow, he's really done some good stuff for this country.
Yeah, he certainly has. And I love to see this is a problem. You have critical thinking. You might not like him as a person, but you recognize what he's done. I said, look at his record. Look at what he has done. And then you call people racist, call him racist. He's not racist at all.
Look, my wife, as you know,
everybody the same.
My wife is a woman of color. You know that. You've met her. She is castigated when people find out that how dare she, as a Mexican woman, support Donald Trump. She's vilified for that, and you know that.
And Black folks are too.
Yeah, if you're a person of color, you cannot like or support him. If you do, you're evil.
Exactly.
Okay, so I can't think for myself?
Yeah, I said, no, I refuse to live on that plantation.
How patronizing can you
Yeah,
be when people
I
tell you you have to think a certain way?
exactly, exactly. I refuse to accept that because, my freedom, our freedom comes from God Almighty, and He gives us the ability to choose right from wrong, and I choose to follow Him. Now, we talk about the deep state. That deep state is deep, and some people don't, Christopher, don't even know what the deep state is. Maybe they don't even believe that a deep state exists. And I mentioned to you, as that deep state, I mean, I see its
I
tentacles
didn't believe
going
it, but I've
everywhere.
seen it firsthand now. I didn't used to really believe it. Oh, my battery's getting low. Oops. I didn't used to believe it, but I saw it firsthand when Donald Trump became president. Um, and a boss showed me something. I was a union official and wanted to know if I could get this to people in Congress or to the president, that there were people in the Border Patrol, bosses, who didn't want, we're going to try to say we only need 60 miles of new fencing. And we knew that we needed 600-700 miles more. And so there were people, the deep state type. So you have to understand the bureaucracy. You do need bureaucrats. You need that to run things. And you have a type of bureaucrat who is not good, not evil, not bad, but they just like status quo and they're lazy a little bit. Okay, that's not good, but all right. But then I have seen now these people who have been embedded over the years who are very far left, including in law enforcement, including in the FBI, including in the Border Patrol, who want to things to go left. And they were fighting President Trump every step of the way. And I saw it firsthand. So I didn't used to believe it. When people said deep state, I was like, oh my God, that's so paranoid. No, I'm telling you, I've seen it firsthand. And there are people that are embedded in the US government or all levels of government that are very, again, not liberal. I'm liberal on some things, very left wing. And they have an ideology and agenda, and they're going to keep either stopping things that they don't like or pushing things they do like, but it's all always very to the left. Everybody makes fun of Senator McCarthy, McCarthyism, and, oh, have you ever been? Well, it turns out when the Soviet Union fell and a lot of their archives were open, it turns out that a lot of the people that he was talking about were actually communist supporters, that they were on the payroll, or at least the Kremlin considered them as allies. So, everybody like the memes, oh, Joe McCarthy, it's horrible. Well, it turns out there were a lot of people in Hollywood that were very pro-Soviet, pro-communist.
Well, you know what? We have politicians now that are supported by the communist Chinese government.
No doubt.
I mean, no doubt. Tons of them. They are supported by China, and the American people don't know that. But and unfortunately, George Soros, I just don't know how. I know you say he's a smart guy. He's an evil man.
I don't doubt. I think he's
evil. Evil to the core. What he has done to this country and to influence politics in this country and to bring down. And there are so many documentaries. I hope that people will look up George Soros, find out about this man.
He hates his country, Dolores, and I don't know why. He swears he was only, young, but he was in the Hitler Youth. He was from Hungary, but he was in the Hitler Youth. That's documented. So I don't know what his mindset is, but it's obvious that he hates this country.
Yeah. Yeah, and he goes around funding all these attorney generals, and now Los Angeles is, with all the problems they had, have imported this guy from San Francisco.
They're done.
Do the same thing.
You're going to see the crime rates skyrocket. Look, I was a cop in New York back in the day, and Giuliani and north of New York. The broken windows thing, and it worked. And I remember friends of mine that were cops for the transit police department. It was a separate police department now it's part of NYPD. The transit cops, and they were pissed at first. Excuse my language. They were upset when they were told to arrest people for jumping the turnstiles, fare beaters, because they used to just write them a ticket, and then they were told you have to arrest them, take them to the station, fingerprint them, and they hated it because all this extra work. And then all of a sudden, in a few weeks, they're like, "Oh my God, this is great," because what they found out was good people don't jump the turnstiles, bad guys do. And they found out that so many of these guys had warrants out there for serious crimes. And so they were hooking them up now, taking them back and finding out, oh my God, this guy's wanted for armed robbery. So you get that collar, even though somebody else did all the paperwork, and they loved it. And crime went down when you go after people because they break windows. You go after people for graffiti. You go after people for smoking dope on the streets. If you're going to commit those crimes, chances are you're going to commit other crimes.
Yeah.
And it worked. But we've retreated from that, and you see the crime rates skyrocketing in
Oh,
New York
yeah.
City.
Yeah.
You see the graffiti back on the subways. I mean, it's just horrible.
And people pushing people in front of the subways. That is just evil, pure evil. Push somebody in front of a subway.
Yep,
You know,
that's spiking now. Yep.
Yeah. You know, I'll never forget this Black mother. Her son had been murdered. She said, you know what? I thank God for Rudy Giuliani. She said, I wish we still had stop and frisk because my son would still be alive. This is from a Black mother whose son had been killed, and Rudy cleaned up.
So there was a city councilman, a Black woman in New York City recently, and what she was bitching about, she goes, the people in my community don't want to defund the police. She said, I've had a massive influence of these white liberals moving in. They want to defund the police, but my people, they don't want to defund the police because they know they're getting murdered, they're getting killed. Mm-hmm. It's these white upper middle class liberals that come in and then decide, oh, we hate the police, and so she said, no, my people, my constituents that lived here for years, they want the police. Yeah, and that's very sad. Now, you know, looking at this Georgia Senate race, I know we are going to touch bases on that. I hope the people of Georgia wake up because, you know, that Warsaw or whatever, the Black gentleman supposed to be Reverend, that guy's a piece of work. You know, he's very left wing. He's not liberal. Yes, he's very left wing. He is in favor of abortion, and he invited Fidel Castro to speak at a church that he attended, and he even tried to cover for Fidel Castro, the communist dictator who kills people. Who's atheist? He's just complex. But then he said the United States is complex, and he wants to be a senator. He has so much baggage. Now I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to blame the Republicans. There was a three-way race. I forget the name, Kelly Loeffler. She would have won hands down, except for another Republican decided that he should be, and he's a congressman. Yeah, Joe Collins. He should be a senator. Yes. So we wouldn't have to worry about the Senate right now if he hadn't done that. And my wife was a registered Democrat, but she voted for Trump. She points it out. The Republican Party tends to do that. We screw ourselves up. Yeah. So if they were smart, he would have said, you know what, God bless you, run Kelly. You know, I'll stay as congressman maybe next time or whatever. But he did. His ego got in there and he ran. And so it was a three-way race, two Republicans splitting the vote. She would have won hands down. Now we have to worry about this, this new election coming up, which is terrifying because if they win both seats, the Democrats, then they will control the Senate. They'll control the House, and if Biden's inaugurated, then they will have all three branches, or both branches of the government, the executive branch and the legislative. That's scary stuff. It is. But I blame that on the Republicans. I mean, they, you know what? They need to learn a lesson because we need to support one another. And if you're righteous, I mean, I don't suggest supporting a Republican if he's an idiot. Oh no, but if they're righteous, not at all. Support them. So that was my little piece on that. I'm so disturbed by that was done that we're now worrying about controlling the Senate. But it is scary in Georgia. We have people, who are saying move in here from out of state to vote. These are the Democrats saying that. You don't see any Republicans saying let's break the law to win the election, but you see the Democrats saying, hey, move to, sign up in Georgia to vote. Wow. Anyways. Yeah, but you know what, Christopher, this has just been very enlightening, and I'm so thankful that you came and shared today. I really appreciate it. Now, I wanted to see if you have some last words you'd like to share, if you have any contact information, if you want people to contact you or people can my email is fine. I mean, my email address is out there. It's cookincop, COOKINCOP at AOL.com. I'm old school. I've had that since like 93 or 94. So yeah, they're welcome to email me. The last words I have to say, first of all, Dolores, thank you for having me on, and it's wonderful reconnecting with you. I miss doing those speaking engagements, but shut down because of the virus. Look, I don't ever want to tell people how to vote. I don't want to ever tell people how to think. I just wish people would use critical thinking skills. And you mentioned this, but be very aware that what we have can be, and seems to be that they're doing it, taken away from us. Our God-given rights created by our creator, natural born rights, they used all three phrases that the founding fathers, can be taken away. And don't take them for granted. And nobody's saying being a radical, nobody's saying you have to join a militia, none of that. I don't agree with any of that. But use your voice, vote, and consider that what this country would be like if you lose those rights. And I appreciate people like you, Dolores, speaking about this. And you know, if you don't want to be religious, don't. I don't care. But if you're a Christian, you have to start thinking you using Christian values.
Yes, and you know what? We have to vote our Christian values to our friends in
Or I should say this, Dolores, Judeo-Christian values.
Judeo-Christian values. Yes, that is our salvation and our relationship with Jesus Christ. And this is a Christmas season, and we definitely don't want to undercut him, because
it's also the Hanukkah season. God bless to those who are the Jewish faith.
Yes.
Our country is founded on Judeo-Christian values.
Exactly.
That's being taken away from them too. You know,
yes,
get-togethers, Hanukkah get-togethers is being taken away. So yeah, we need to stand up and be heard.
Yeah, we do. And thank you for being heard today, for speaking today. I thank you again, I should say.
We could talk for hours more, I'm sure.
I know. It's been great. But anyway, and to each of you, my audience, I want to thank you, those who listen and those who look at this podcast each week. I want to thank you, because I don't take that for granted. And if you want to subscribe to this show, please subscribe. And if you want to be a sponsor, I'm looking for sponsors to my show. And I would love to have you sponsor. And anyway, share this message when it comes out. It will come out next week. And share on your Facebook, or share it with all your friends. And just get this message out, because we're here for one reason. First, to serve God and for his purpose. And then to get the truth out, so that people know what the truth is. And it's the truth that sets us free. That's why I can say what I say and do what I do. And by the grace of God. Anyway, stand up for what you believe, dear friends. Because if we do not stand up for what we believe, who will?